Since the Subdistrict 3 letter of intent is on the council agenda this evening, I'd like to take this opportunity to provide my thoughts on why the city pursued redevelopment on Broad Street West and to share information that will hopefully provide the public with more insight on the importance of the project for taxpayers. When I was hired in September 2015, the governing body had a strong desire to pursue potential redevelopment opportunities within our city. In 2016, it was quite apparent after the city went through extensive public engagement and many discussions with volunteer committees during its master plan reexamination process that Summit citizens and elected officials saw the Broad Street area east and west of the Village Green as areas of interest. They saw a need to reimagine the landscape and create legal mechanisms for private entities to make a significant capital investment on properties that could clearly be better utilized, especially on the properties that were city-owned. While a municipality has local control for what it adopts as its zoning laws and desired land uses, there are limitations on design preferences, housing unit makeup, and other project details that are not within municipal control if the project conforms with city zoning code. Redevelopment law, however, allows municipalities to have far greater control over the land use, proposed project development through redevelopment plans and agreements on such terms as building design, materials, density, affordable housing requirements, open space and public improvements, and financial terms for land acquisition and annual payments based on project revenue realized. Unfortunately, the state of New Jersey provides very few statutory options for municipalities like Summit to provide economic development incentives within its boundaries. Moreover, the state of New Jersey has tight control over how municipalities can generate revenue to support its budget to fund essential service provisions to its citizens. New Jersey municipalities, except for Newark and Jersey City, which have a sales tax provision, can only raise revenue by one form of taxation, a tax levy on property assessed valuation. And a municipality can only raise revenue through its municipal tax rate as a percentage of what the municipality's tax levy need is in any given year. In 2021, municipal government received about 19 cents per $1 raised in its total property tax revenue. Fortunately, the state's local redevelopment housing law provides a municipality another option to generate more revenue on private property improvements than otherwise would be permissible under the ordinary property tax regime that currently exists in the state. Please allow me to lay out some important points to consider when thinking about redevelopment and whether it is needed in Summit. In 2010, the city's total net assessed valuation, which is, and I'll refer to as NAV, which comprises of all land and improvements valuations, was $3.12 billion. This valuation stayed basically the same up until 2018 when it reached $3.13 billion. Last year, it finally surpassed the $3.2 billion mark. In 2021, the residential portion of the city's total NAV was approximately 82%. 10 years ago, the residential percentage was around 80%. Why is this relevant and what happened? Even though the residential tax base grew by over $160 million since 2010, there was a sizable industrial valuation decrease on the former Merck/Celgene and now BMS West Campus property. Nearly $100 million was lost in valuation from 2013 to 2019 due to a tax appeal settlement. The bottom line is Summit's residential property owner has borne more tax burden over the last decade because of this industrial valuation decrease. Good news is the city expects to see increased valuation on the BMS property in the coming years as a result of extensive building renovation and planned construction work that is currently going on. Finally, just for apartments, because since the Broad Street West Subdistrict 3 is apartments, property valuation only grew by just approximately $22 million over the last 10 years. Municipal budget revenue. In 2016, the city's tax base generated approximately 52.7% of municipal budget revenue through its tax levy. In 2021, it's 53.4%. Point is, the city budget is more reliant on property tax revenue to balance its budget. And who is bearing the greatest burden to fund this increase? Residential property owners. Just some other budget facts. Local revenue has remained stagnant over the last 10 years, other than the $795,000 that the city began to anticipate in its budget since 2018. That was due to the city's settlement with Overlook Medical Center and its tax-exempt status. The total settlement amount was $5.56 million to be distributed to the city from 2017 to 2023. That $795,000 amount will end in 2023 and will be replaced by approximately $500,000 anticipated revenue as a result of a law that was signed last year. State aid has remained the same since 2010. While the city has judiciously used contribution funds from its parking service utility due to the 2020 pandemic, parking services financial condition has been severely impacted. In 2019, the city anticipated $800,000 in revenue from the parking services utility as a contribution to the general operating budget. However, that amount was zero in 2021, and we expect that to be the case for years to come. Since 2016, I stated publicly many times over the years that Summit has a revenue issue. I stated earlier, the city has very few options to generate revenue for its operating budget. And the city has a debt service issue as well. In 2012, the city's municipal debt service payment was $2.8 million. In 2016, it was $3.2 million. This year, it will be $5.6 million. So why am I sharing this information with you now? It is because the city unequivocally needs to find ways to generate new revenue sources, which brings me to the reason why the city pursued redevelopment and desires it to enter into a financial agreement with the Broad Street West redevelopers. Municipalities use payment in lieu of taxes to encourage development of a project that might not otherwise be financially viable. I will leave that explanation and illustration up to the city's financial advisor when he attends a public meeting soon to go over the financial analysis of the Subdistrict 3 project. At that time, the public will see and hear why the city negotiated its $8 million land price, why the $8 million is a fair market value for this to receive for this land, and why a pilot program is necessary for this project. However, please be mindful that what the $8 million can be used for over the next 8 to 10 years, which is to pay down its $16 million debt obligation related to the new fire headquarters. The only other point I will make is that when a pilot is used for the redevelopment project, the municipality receives 95% of the annual gross revenue generated by the project each year. The other 5% goes to the county. For the Subdistrict 3 project, we expect that to mean 2.5 times more in annual net revenue for what the city would receive in annual municipal tax revenue under an ordinary tax assessment arrangement. Over the next 30 years, it will mean tens of millions of dollars in new tax revenue, or new revenue period, for the city to use in its municipal budget to ease the future burden on taxpayers. And that is solely generated in the Subdistrict 3 project. More revenue will come from future development projects within Subdistricts 1 and 2. I hope this information is helpful in understanding why this project is fiscally important for the municipality. More will be shared about the pilot agreement at a time when we can legally speak about it in public after the redevelopment agreement has been fully negotiated. Thank you for this opportunity to speak, Council President.